All right. All right.
I
Good
see.
morning.
I see
All
that little
right.
icon. It's how I always know. It flashes to live on the top of the screen, and we're like,
Nice.
oh, there we go. There's our Friday, Resume Speed Friday, Facebook Friday. Something I always look
Yeah.
forward to.
Well, good morning, Sean, and thanks
Good
for
morning.
being up for the task to being on live. I know no matter, you could be like coughing in a coma, I think, in bed, and you still want to try to make some effort to come on here,
Well, I do. I
right?
do that for a lot of different reasons. I mean, firstly, I should say we are no longer coughing or in bed, so we'll take that as a huge plus for those who were
Right?
paying attention. We've come out the other side, or so I believe, and we're getting confirmation of those tests. And I will tell you, this is the first day that I feel 100% in a long time.
Uh,
So I'm
wow.
really, really stoked about it. So I have great energy. And, being here with you on Friday is just always, you and I were communicating the other day, and you're like, God, I really miss like being able to be with you. I miss that part of it. Like, I feel like I'm in quarantine in my partnership and in my business. And to a degree we are. I think I'm going
Yeah.
to be in really serious quarantine for a little while.
Right.
Right. But
Yeah.
so when I get to see you, it's always invigorating. It's always stimulating, and it's centering. So it's
Oh,
something I enjoy. I will always make it
yeah,
if
me
possible.
too. Me too. Well, I'm so excited that we're in the business of real estate, obviously, and when we get an opportunity to showcase the journey of someone going through the home process from discovery of helping them find a home to, and it happens to be one of our real estate agents. It's really, really super exciting. This amazing journey Michelle and her family have been on, and what makes me feel so great is knowing that her kids, her husband, herself, the next 10, 20, 30 years, for the rest of their lives, I mean, they're set. And that just makes me feel so good. I mean, if I I know for me, I would never need to leave. That's great,
Well, we
so
it'll be fun because we get to dig into the story, a little of the background, how things came to be, and what the resolution has been. And we get to share that with people, and it's that real important part because we don't always feature our business, right? I mean, yes, it's sponsored by Heyler Realty in our efforts, but this is a more of a feature. This is kind of like people can understand what the real story can be and what
yeah.
our focus is in visualizing things and working alongside each other. So it's wonderful as an evidence of success.
Yes, absolutely. Michelle, I'm gonna bring her in. And I love it because Michelle and I first met over as parents over at Westwood Charter, as parent volunteers, actually. So, good morning, Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Your
There you are.
gorgeous
Good morning, Michelle.
home.
I love it.
So
Oh,
excited. Well, I
That's
know Michelle
exciting.
and I first met as parent volunteers over at Westwood Charter, and she has two boys. I have two boys. Hers are younger, and she was her kids are a couple grades behind, but she was always so, involved at the school like I was, and it's nice to have that collegiality of the mindset that's the same, and we care about the similar things, and going through the same process for sure. And both of our husbands are winos as well as us. So there was like a lot of
A lot of
similarities,
parallels.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Except you're an amazing writer. I have to say, like your journalistic style and getting to know that side of you, I'm so impressed. It's just
Well,
really
thank you.
quite amazing. I don't have that skill set to do that. So I guess I always admire in others something I wish I was able to do. So, because you have a history in that, right, Michelle?
Oh yes, I started out in publishing. I was on the, college newspaper. I was in magazines. That's where I started out. So that's where I began, and it's so great with Heyler becoming a realtor. I've actually been able to keep those skills on with you guys because you've let me do the blog writing and work on the website. So it's been fun to take two skills and work on the Heyler team. It's been really great.
No, you're so good at it. It's just top-notch quality of production every single week. I love the way it looks, which I know I owe you something for today as well. So it's on my list. I'll get it to you. I'm sorry. It's just been trying to
Busy,
juggle,
busy,
pulling
busy,
things.
crazy busy,
Yes,
right?
yes, just trying
Oh
to
my
pull things
gosh.
together, make it all happen. So,
it is definitely, Michelle. And I'll add to this when you first came into Hyler, and I remember Jay talking about how she had met you through school and kind of what your ideology was and how it was so incongruous. No, that's congruent. Thank you. Wow, I've struggled for that one today. With the philosophy of our little firm, and that you were so family oriented, community oriented, and then what was really amazing was that you were able to come into Heyler and not only bring in the real estate aspect and some of the insights that you've had, because you worked in relocation and helping people relocate with big corporate entities like Google, et cetera, but also to bring in those specific skill sets that you had developed over those many years as a blogger, as a writer. And you've just added a really wonderful component of energy and quality to our little firm. And it's been a joy to have you there from day one.
Thank you. Thank you. And I always tell people how I love that Heyler helped me get my house. It's a little more special when, it's like these guys, Sean is one that got me this house, and Jay, that you guys are always looking for me when I started. And to me, it's a little bit more special that way, that it's kind of in the family.
Can I share? So we should go a little bit into that history, because I think that's kind of fun. You and your husband had been on the search for a home. For how long had you guys been looking for a home?
7 years?
7 years, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
The problem was, years?
We were living in a wonderful rental and we really enjoyed the neighborhood. So it was really hard for us to find something that was just as special. So that's why it took a long time.
Well, so not only do you guys live in a great rental, because you really did. For those who don't know, it was within walking distance of Century City. So you were always in this great pedestrian yet quiet neighborhood and off the beaten track, but still had access to everything within just minutes, which was super cool. So, and
lots of great neighbors, which is also nice when you live on a street where you have great neighbors, and so that's also just kind of is an added bonus, So.
And I have great neighbors here, by the way, so we can get into that later. But I have great neighbors
we want to I just want to savor this story. This is a great story.
All right,
I love our neighbors.
Master storyteller.
Well, no, I'm not. I just love that this has as much history as it does, and probably a lot of viewers will relate to this. Is that there is often a sense of, am I doing the right thing? Am I missing it? Am I too late? Oh my God, prices have got to come down. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier. Oh my God, I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore. Or I've lost an opportunity. We should have bought that house. And so much of those, what ifs in your own mind. And you guys had it for 6-7 years, comfortable, but always kind of on the search. And I would say, Michelle, that not only in your own search and cross-referencing other houses and things that you had experienced by paying attention to the market, but we brought you several different properties potentially that we had insight on and we knew were going to come to market. And it was very interesting in that journey, because each one of them had some pros in their column, and each one of them had some cons in their columns. And you were just trying to balance out, where does the money make sense? Where does the neighborhood make sense? Where's the house itself and the work we're going to have to do? And I have to truly confess that finding the house you're in now was something that I had brought about. But truth was, it was Jay's inspiration. Jay said to me one day, she goes, well, what about that house for Michelle? And I go, well, I know the seller really wants more than what they had focused in on as a price point. And Jay says, I think they've got more gas in the tank, and I think you should show it to them. So I want to make sure credit gets given where it is due.
I love it.
I think of I think of my girls first. I have to say, when there's an opportunity for you or Kate, I just think like, what if, and just trying to pay attention and put the dots together. Sean is the master strategist, and he always sees the big picture, and I'm the detail in the elephant, just remembering things and kind of putting the little pieces, but then he takes all of it and then kind of creates the big picture. So I think it's a nice combination of remembering things and then having somebody who can just kind of pull it all together. So.
What are you saying? I don't remember everything? Is that
no? You remember big
I'm
things, but the little conversation.
Oh, I don't remember any of them.
Sometimes some of the thoughts you're like, huh? And, oh, you're right. And all I have to do is bubble it to the surface. It's there, sometimes just below the surface. But if I bring it to the surface, you're like, oh, that's right. Because there's so many people pulling on you, Sean. I mean, there's so many people from so many different parts of your life that are pulling on you and trying to extract things. So you keep
That's
it
why
all.
that's why I have that screen behind me. I'm just part of it. I just want to be I want to be in the firmament, connected to everything. But thank you for recognizing that. Michelle, when we first met, I think I probably brought you 2 or 3 houses that you were engaged with, that you wanted to pursue. In fact, I know that we made offers on a couple of these properties.
Yeah, I think the year we bought this house, I think we made like 4 offers in like 6 months on. You guys had Heyler had several properties coming in, and off market. It's just specific reasons. Different owners didn't want to go to market, which was great for us. And we put in offers on several before this one actually came to fruition. So we were in the game, and we just had fallen out of the game because COVID had hit. And that's when we said, we're done. And that's when Sean texted me, hey, what about this house? It's like right when you think you're going one path, something opens up and you take another journey. But
it checked off so many boxes.
It did. That was it.
In real estate, right? It's location. And frankly, when you look at a long term, like a little bit extra above when the location is just so great, like it's an amazing opportunity, We bought
we bought the smallest house on the best street.
Yes.
And
yes,
all of our houses around us are 2-story beautiful homes, and we have this small little Spanish that we love. But like I said, we have great neighbors. I've met most of the neighbors now, and it's just we talk about, it's like, how many houses? Like maybe 7 houses on the street, on this block. Like
very small.
Very small, maybe 7 to 10 houses on this one little block.
Actually, too, there's a couple of things to identify. The first one was, this was the closest in terms of quality to the neighborhood that you were living in, right? The neighborhood you had been renting in had a very similar quality and appeal and feel, kind of in the hills, and kind of had a little scape to it, and tree line, and it was pretty. And then the other part is the way this house sits up. Where it sits, you're actually got an overview. So when you look out your living room window, you're not looking just at the neighbor's house. You're actually seeing 1,000 feet beyond them, because you can see the treetops. And so you're on a little knoll, which is another check plus. And these are little psychological things that I don't know that everybody understands, but there is something very healthy about wide open space, that sense of room to expand and to dream and to visualize and see. And being on the knoll, what I love about it is, since we do have 2-story houses around us, we get a lot of sunshine because we're kind of up. We don't get, their houses don't block our sunshine. Right? And that to me is a big deal. I'm a big person about having natural sunlight in the house. And right now I'm going crazy because I have these temporary taped up shades all over, and I know those.
I can't see shades out. They're driving me nuts.
I think Jay and I both know those shades. We've all lived with those shades at some point.
Oh my God. For a year and a half, Michelle. I think we lived with our shades for almost 2 years, frankly.
What?
Because it took us that long to, first of all, work, kids, community volunteering, our home stuff is last on the plate. And so hate shopping, figuring out design and so forth. It's like, I love doing it for everybody else, but when it comes to my own house, it's kind of like analysis paralysis. And so for 2 years, we shopped so many different window coverings before we decided on one. So
that's what I was thinking. 2 years is a long time. I went through 6 months, and I was fatigued after 6 months. And my house is like half the size of your house. So I was thinking about all those people that go through this, and all the decisions you have to make, and all the choices.
That's why they're designers. That's why you have professional designers that are out there.
I didn't have a designer.
No, I understand. Well, but that's the other part of the formula, in all fairness. Let's talk about that a little, just for a minute. Give him a little bit of credit. And that's your husband, David, who is incredibly analytical and is not shy with opinion. And so you probably had to navigate a lot of little detail with his cross-reference and approval process, where you guys were collaborating and coming in. Did you have any interesting disagreements about the process, or did you guys find yourselves really in kind of sync the whole way through?
Are you serious? We're human, of course. course we had disagreements.
Right. Right.
You have two strong opinionated people going in, but the only disagreement, no, not really, we kind of argued about tile a little bit, but we got there finally. I had a vision of a little more modern, and David had a vision a little more Spanish. So we kind of met in the middle. Yeah, we met in the middle.
It was a nice blend, yeah. Because of the cabinet choice in your kitchen is more on the modernist side, but then you've got some tiles that's the Spanish side. But I was surprised that the wine nook area wasn't even bigger.
It's huge, right? He had that whole space to have a wine fridge, and he chose a small wine fridge.
I'm so surprised.
I am too. And I told you, like, we have
a locker,
a California basement though too in this house.
Oh.
And I was convinced that's going to be a wine cellar. And
I remember.
He kept in an HVAC. He kept our HVAC is down there and our heaters down there. And I was just like, oh, that's a wine cellar. That's it. We're having our wine cellar finally. But he chose to do another direction. I don't know what, but you know what? The wine choice was his. I let him choose that. And the den is his, the TV room. He's buying. I told him he can do whatever he wants in the TV room. And there are so many boxes coming in. I don't know what's in them. I'm a little nervous.
Boys and toys, right?
Yeah.
I think the story of the house too, and the story of the acquisition of the house and where we were at, was that the house had been in escrow with another client of ours, quite frankly, who regrettably now will tell you that I should never let that go. And the only reason we had brought it to this person was they were willing to pay a real premium for what it is, because they're a developer, so they could pay more. And the seller at that time, which just by all set of circumstances had bizarrely purchased that house from my mother 30 years ago. So that was crazy town, right? That this house had actually, my mom represented the seller and the buyer on that property 30 years ago. That seller called me on what's the holiday? President's Weekend. Yep. And it was a Monday morning at 8. And anybody who knows me, I'm somebody who believes in holidays and enjoys taking the time away from the norm of work. I enjoy family time and recreation, and it's important to me. So I normally won't answer those kinds of calls, but for whatever reason, I did answer it. And it was like a 7:30 in the morning call, which is like, that's pretty intrusive. Usually my mother-in-law or my mom or dad I think my mom and dad know not to call me that early, but other people, it's like, well, 7:30, that's a little aggressive. So anyway, I take the call. The person says to me, hey, I see that you guys sold a house around the corner over here, and I have a house. I'm wondering if you have any other buyers. And I immediately called him back because he had left a message and said, yes, in fact, I do. And he said to me, he goes, well, I happen to be at the property now. And I don't think I hung up the phone before I was in my car driving over there. And it was like 7:45 in the morning on that Monday. I went over and met this person who was kind of a quirky guy, a little bit different, very, very guarded. And as I was to kind of find out, already had offers in hand, other offers from other developers. So he knew he had something of value. And anyway, so the point of that was that we had presented to somebody, and then COVID hit. And there was a sell-off in the marketplace, if everyone remembers that. I think the Dow Jones lost like 5,000 or 6,000 points in the better part of 2 or 3 days. And so my guy's like, whoop, Wall Street dried up. I'm out. I'm going to back off for a little while. And since been roaring right on ahead. But the point of that was he let go. And we got to talking about this. And I felt like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose this opportunity. We've got something that came to us. It's a little bit of manna from heaven, as we call it. Some kind of little just magic. This just brought this thing together. What can we do? And then that's when Jay said, well, what about Michelle? And I thought, well, it's above the price point. So we brought it to you, and you come to see it with David. And I think we were all masked up. Weren't we gloved and masked at that time? And
I want to say we weren't that yet.
I don't think that was even a protocol yet, because you were just on.
It was right in the early side of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
It was right that first week it's mid-March. It was, the week after my 50th birthday. And I know that people were not masking yet, or that was a protocol of any sort.
I know
So
we were masked by inspections, but I don't think we were in
Yes, that's right.
initial viewing.
You're right. You're right. You were right about that. And so, and I couldn't get access to the property without the seller being there because he was very guarded. And so I remember we go through the house. Now, what's interesting about this house, Michelle, that you should share a little bit is the house suffers from an identity. You know, if you want to talk about a
Yes.
house that doesn't know what it is, at least from the exterior, somebody at some point converted a classic Spanish floor plan into an exterior that was like just a ranch traditional. Is that how you describe it from the outside?
Yes, they put up these weird boards. They painted it an awful color.
Oh, the
They
color. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
they just messed it all up. I don't know what they were thinking. Even inside the house, they just they didn't embrace the Spanish. They almost wanted to hide it. They were almost like they're
did.
ashamed of the Spanish. They want to look like it's just a bungalow. So they shamed this poor house into some really bad 80s bungalow look. I don't know what they were doing. And the moment I walked in, I saw arches and I saw the wood beams in the living room. And I said, this is a Spanish house hidden underneath this horrible, exterior. And so my husband always wanted a Spanish house. And I think that was a big deal in it. Was so when we saw the Spanish house, and then he's like, "Oh, Spanish house, I want to." And so it just started kind of, David was the pulling point. I walked in, and I'm like, "This is a lot of work. It's a lot more money." And he was the one just pulling me. Usually, I'm the one pulling him. He
Yeah,
was like, "No,
right.
keep going. This is worth it. This is worth it." So it was him. He really wanted the house, and that kind of pushed us through. Yeah.
nice.
There's such a great reward in that too. And what's so rewarding in hearing that is, to your point, you were the driver, mostly the driver. David was almost like the lead weight, like, I don't know, or about the money, or whatever. But the way the universe conspired was it brought you ridiculously inexpensive interest rates so that you could secure fantastic. Your husband's profession is one whose job is very secure in an insecure economy. So whatever changes, his business is still very viable and will be there. So you had the security of that. And then you had the buy-in. And I have to say, like even when you just visualize your house and you sit and you look outside that living room window or your TV room windows now, and you see your neighbors, which are actually at a bit of a distance away. And I think it's one absolutely magnificent house that almost takes up your entire frame.
It's a beautiful house. I love looking at that house.
It's just pretty, right? You look outside, you're like, oh, it actually is an attitude adjustment when you walk outside. Like, oh, I feel good. Like, this is pretty. Life is good. It's a first world problem, and it's something to be grateful for. That's for sure.
Very grateful. It's a beautiful, beautiful street. I just love this neighborhood. I'm so happy. I can't tell you how much we love it. We just love it. And we love the house. I mean, there are quirks right now. We're kind of going through things. They come in after you're kind of done, they come in and they kind of tweak everything. So we're doing a lot of tweaking right now. So we're finding out that kind of stuff, what we need to fix, and the little things that we wish we would have done. I hear everyone say that afterward, like, oh, I should have done that. I should have done this. And we're finding that now. Just they're not big things; they're just little things that you get.
I know. Isn't that so funny? I wish the light switch box we would have had it just here, because in that way I could have had this section to frame the artwork, or if only we put the switches this way, or we put insulation in this section. I mean, nothing big things, but little things only in hindsight. Like, when the walls were open, this is what we should have done, or we should have adjusted for that factor, or things where, for us, we did a 3,000 square foot build, and I didn't, because again, being so busy too, not being on the job site every day, you expect their mapping process to map out certain things, but only as an owner living in the space do you really know, oh gosh, that darn light switch just needs to be 8 inches this way, and then it left more room for the wall, but it gets in that awkward out of position place, or the light switches or the electrical outlets in the bathroom. If only it was here, then it would aesthetically, little nitpicky things, because I'm so OCD about things. It was just like, why was I not more OCD when they were placing it? And I wasn't.
Well, you get it's over. Like I think the funny story about the house is the one thing David really wanted was a warm master bathroom. Like, he just hates going into the shower and it's cold in the room. So we tried to put a heater into the ceiling and we couldn't do that. Wasn't going to work. And
Right.
then my contractor's like, okay, then we'll pump in good heat through the ventilation system. Well, that's not working. So there's no heat going into this master bathroom that David designed, and all
Right.
he wanted was heat in his master bathroom. So we had to buy this like $30 space heater while we're
Oh,
trying to
that's so
figure
funny.
out. So we're trying to figure out how to get the heat better into the bathroom. But that just cracked me up. I said, David, this is all you're like, I just want a heat hot bathroom. That's all you wanted. And the first shower he took was cold.
And the
So
radiant
funny.
flooring wasn't an option? Like the
You know, we didn't want that. We wanted it kind of like a room heater. And my contractor's like, oh, I have these great, like they're, I guess you can put these heaters in the ventilation, in the air filter, the fan in the ceiling. They make these combos. But because our ceilings were so low, and if he brought it down to add this, it wouldn't look as good. And then we never thought about the floor heating. I just never thought about it. And
it's so funny because that's a big thing in Asian households, is to have the warm floors, because most of the time we're barefoot, we don't wear shoes in the house, and so radiant heat. In the olden days, they used to have like the hot water, you know, kind of pumping the heat, and the heat rises. And so, and I know one of our sellers, they put the heated floors in all of their bathrooms.
All their houses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and it's just these coils, and you turn the thing on, and it heats up, and it makes the tiles nice and warm. But then
I wish I had that now, Jay. I wish.
David wishes he had it now.
That's the thing, is once it's done and it's sealed, you're like, oh, dang, I should have done that. And there you go.
I know.
I find that the joke. I find that the joke of the house right now. That's all we wanted.
Did you find that your contractor was really instrumental, like really solid, dependable, and gave you great guidance relative to your experience?
Yeah, I actually love my contractor. We had our moments of like some things he did that we didn't like, but we worked on it together. And what I like about him is, and this is one thing I found when I was going through the process, I talked to every worker that came in this house. Mm-hmm. And I said, how do you like working with Jason? How is this? And they were all just like, been with him for 20 years.
Nice.
Great. You know, I talked to everybody to get a feel for the workmanship and what loyalties they have. And
very
they all
rare.
had such good, they all had such great things to say about him. There was never a muffled like, oh, he's good. You know, it was always good. And what I liked about my contractor was there were things that he did extra because he just thought it would look better. And so he did stuff like something in our bathroom. He's like, I don't like that. He came back in and he fixed it and made it look better. And it was just something that he instinctively did. And that was the reason we chose him over other contractors, because he did have an eye for things. And since I knew I wasn't hiring a designer, I needed someone else a little bit to help me, like not to be too pushy, but to guide me a little bit. And he would do special little things here and there because he thought they'd look better, and they did. The only thing I disagree with him on now is that we had to put new windows in my middle bath where my beautiful bathtub is, and I wanted frosted glass. And he talked me out of it. He said, oh, but then you can't see your beautiful backyard. But now I realize my neighbors can see me in my beautiful bath. Yes. so we got to go back in. I can't take a bath. I told my husband, I said, I can't take a bath now because he said, our neighbor's window's right there. And I said, oh my gosh, I hope they haven't seen me.
That's funny.
So I got to put frosted glass in that window because I can't take.
You know, you can just get like a $2 film and put it.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, maybe I'll do that $2 film, because is that the trick?
Yeah,
the trick.
Yeah, it really is.
We put it up in a few houses actually when you see a light, you know, electrical
an unattractive
post
wall or something.
On
right?
or you want it. You can do midway, the whole way, etc. It's super easy, and I would do that, and then it's an instantaneous change, and then you can always revert it back to clear glass if you ever decide to do window coverings. But it looks exactly like frosted glass.
Oh well, then I'm doing that, so I can start taking my bath. I'm so upset.
I was going to say, by the way, when you're in the bathroom, it's not like you're really just like, well, let me look outside and enjoy the outside, you know?
Yeah. You're indoors with a candle and you're kind of like,
I agree. Some soft music piping through or something. But how about, Michelle, you know, you always hear about surprises. People go through the experience of a house, and especially a house like yours that you walk into, that was largely untouched. And you went into it like having to visualize a lot of things that you were able to do, which I have to commend you. We'll talk about that in a minute. But were there any really like moments with surprises where you're like, this is, we didn't expect, this is a big problem we have to address or fix? Or
I think our biggest problem was asbestos. When we started taking out walls, we found a lot of asbestos in the tiling and the walls. And so I after knowing that, if you look at a house, if you're looking at Fixer Upper and you see a bathroom that looks like it's from the 60s or 70s, they probably use asbestos to lay down the flooring. We also found a weird pipe somewhere, and
that was coated in asbestos, right?
Yes, and we just wrapped it and got, we didn't touch it. So I learned that if you don't touch it, it's okay. It's when you touch it.
Right.
Well, because the fibers, you don't want to, escape into the air. But the great thing is you wrote a nice asbestos blog about that experience too. And that's the beauty of, as you know better, you do better, but you've also been writing about it so that there is an article so that others can also, and you had some good pointers in your article about asbestos and just what you said in terms of the year built, and if you suspect it, then get inspected, et cetera. So I thought those are great layover from what you've experienced firsthand.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good lesson to learn. And I know several people contacted me after that, talking about how they didn't even think my cousin says, I have a 60s bathroom. Do you have asbestos? I said, as long as you don't touch it, you're probably okay. But then she says, I'm gonna have it inspected. So it's just making sure your family's safe. I think it's way worth that inspection. If and I didn't catch that. My contractor caught that. I didn't. He said, this looks like we need to kind of make sure there's nothing here.
This is one that I have to ask too while I'm thinking about it. So you go through the process of buying a home, and you're going to be doing all the work that you're going to do. How many people offer opinions, unsolicited and otherwise? Does every single human being on earth actually have an opinion and they want to share it with you?
Well, it's so funny because of COVID, no one could really come to my house. So, but you know who's had the most opinions? My neighbors.
Oh, really?
I think because they've been looking at it for so long, and they've been like, oh, you should do this or you should do that. And I find that curious. Since, like I said, if my mom or my sister were here and they could come in all the time, I'm sure they would have plenty of suggestions. But because they're not here and it's just me and David doing it, it was pretty easy that way. But yeah, my neighbors, I had a neighbor who suggested I redo the windows, which we're doing anyway. Another neighbor suggested I would go up 2 stories.
Which you never wanted to do. You wanted to keep a single story. Yeah. So.
We always wanted a single story, and we didn't want to add square footage because of property taxes and because we just wanted to get in the house. We knew adding square footage would add months of permitting. Yeah. And we always said we just wanted to, my kids have 8 more years with us?
Yeah, that's real too. That's a great point. That's a good point. Yeah.
This is going to be our little retirement house. So we didn't need to go big because my kids are at an age where they just need a basketball hoop in the backyard. We're going to get a dog. They want to get a dog.
Yay.
Those are the things that they want.
Ping pong table. Get a ping pong table.
We're getting a ping pong table. That's the stuff that's important. It was more that stuff than having a bigger house for us. We have,
of course.
So that was.
Well, Sean, your house isn't what's the square footage of your house? You've been there
about 1,900 square feet now, but we've made several additions and different improvements to it over the years. It lives a little bit bigger. My wife has done my wife is like you, both of you ladies, and you in particular, Michelle. She has great vision. She can see. My mother-in-law is similar. They just can't. It's funny because my mom's a serial remodeler. My mom fixes something she just fixed 2 years ago, and it's just like, Mom, oh God, get a job, a hobby, or something. But it's redoing. It's constant. I don't know how many dishwashers she's had or whatever. But the point is, it's kind of funny. But then I have on the other side, on my wife's side, in particular, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, one of my sister-in-laws, actually 2 of my sister-in-laws, and Jill, the 4 of them have great vision. They really see houses and they understand living spaces and how to make
beautiful aesthetics.
Oh, their aesthetics. Thank you for saying that. Their aesthetics are honestly they are some of the most talented people I've ever seen with how they visualize things and they bring them to fruition. And it's just fun. When you go to my mother-in-law's house, it's just entertaining to be in it. It's like a work of art when you're walking through it. Everything's interesting and different atmospheres and feelings, and it's been able to be carried through. So in terms of living in a house, we've learned that different atmospheres, different sitting environments, different types of way the light comes into the room, the acoustics of the room, the visual cues that you can see become very important. So when you come into my little house, there's golly gee, there's probably 20 different types of living spaces where you can just go and sit in this area and read, and this one and have conversation, or this one and have a cup of coffee or watch television or what have you. And so, the house eventually, for us, it was more of just living within the budget and managing what we had in terms of resources. But then I look at other houses like Jay's house, which is a magnificent, gorgeous
Beautiful.
architectural, and you look at it and you go, okay, well, I understand that, because that house will carry its value. It's an economic vehicle too, right? So it's not only that I'm living in it, but it's a big, at the end of the day, return on investment. And that's what we're all kind of trying to do. So what's exciting about your case now is you pretty much had to touch everything in that house. I'm assuming that house is really essentially living very much like a new home in many ways.
Oh yeah, it's set up like a new home, and I mean, we have the open kitchen, which was huge to me. And we were going to do an island, and then once I realized that we could go bigger, we have like a 9 to 10 foot counter here.
You have an island. You actually have a real island. Like Jay
I mean,
has a real island.
it was just one of those things where I said, wait, if I do an island, I have this tiny little space, and if I just, it's called a peninsula because it connects to a wall.
Right.
I have 10 feet of countertop instead of 6 feet. It was such a huge difference in that decision. I told my contractor I wanted to change that up. He said, "Oh my gosh, you're so right. You need to do that. Like that's the call." And
Nice.
so happy that we did it. So happy.
Well, what's cool? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle. Finish.
No, but that's what it's like, the living space. I kept saying, how is my house? Where is important in your house for your family's living space? Like some people, it may be their backyard. They need a pool. Some people, it may be their TV room. They need these big. They like games. For us, it was always the kitchen. The kitchen is the heart of our home. So that was where our expense went, was the kitchen. That was where we put a lot of our money and effort into. And that was
Well, it's interesting too, because that floor plan in that house is actually exceptional. It's pretty much an idyllic floor plan. You have a true entryway, rare, and it's true to the era of those homes. Then you actually have a step to the side, formal living room, which ironically will be the room that is least used other than as a walkthrough, most likely.
Oh, actually, it hasn't been the case, which is so strange.
Really?
At night, my husband and I have been drinking a glass of wine in our living room. We've really enjoyed the living space, and our gas fireplace actually works. So, it's been kind of, we have never, okay, so I'm not young, and we've never had a house where you had a separate sitting space and then a TV room. So we're really enjoying that separate, quiet living space.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it's been lovely. We've been sitting and having a glass of wine before dinner in there and talking about the day. And yeah, so it'll be used. Put it that way. It's gonna be used. But yes, we have a great floor plan.
You really do. But this. So all right. So now you have several features, and you got to share 2 or 3 things that you did to the house that you think really changed the character of the house and brought it up to speed.
Well, it's definitely the kitchen.
Right.
We put in that big space. I'm sitting in it right now and I love it. And then we just did a little, I mean, for me personally, we did little things that we love, like the little tile work, we put in special care and things that you may not see, but we appreciate. And I think
I love your tile choices though, in the showers, as well as the flooring, as well as the cabinets that you chose. I mean, I thought you did a wonderful job. I mean, I was smiling when I watched the video of the walkthrough that your son videoed you walking through your house a couple of days ago on our Facebook. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to watch it, you can do a walkthrough tour with Michelle of our house, and it's really great. And then we should revisit back and do it when it's all kind of done. But you inspired me to pull out my before photos, because I never actually ever, launch the before and after of my house, and it's only been 3 years. And so it hasn't been that long since we've done this, even though during these last 10 months, it seems like it's been forever ago, to pull out the before and after, because watching your before and after, I'm like, oh my God, that's right. My bathroom was it was worse than that. I mean, we lived in it 14 years that way. It's so awful.
Wow.
I would love to
Well,
see that. I've only seen your after house. I'd love to see your before house. That'd be
Oh,
so
Well,
interesting.
the before. Oh.
I'm going to say something not as popular at the moment, and I might have to give you a flag on the play, because you actually had a really classic, super highly desirable Spanish style bathroom. I know the color was a little difficult to take.
Pink and teal.
But I mean, you modified it and made it a modern, gorgeous bathroom. So kudos really in that sense to be able to transform it and have the courage to do it. But you also had something really vintage in there that is pretty rare. Did you know, were they able to salvage, or do they save any of that old material?
No, pink bathtub and pink sinks with the teal trim was something that my husband definitely did not like at all.
That's what happened with our bathroom. We had that purple tile.
Right.
And I had some people write into me saying, please don't get rid of the original tile. And I said, it's purple.
I know some of the color combinations are beautiful. I mean, they're like works of art, but
yes. Purple. I mean, it was green, if it was blue, if it was something I can work with, but I can't.
There are restoration outfits that will come in and remove those things, and they do, and because they are for restoration purposes, for people that want that vintage. Listen, it doesn't matter. It's your house, and you do what you want to do and live in the damn thing the way you want to live in it.
I know. Well, remember the green toilet at the Curwood listing that we sold last year?
Yes,
I mean, they had
I do.
This vintage green toilet, but obviously for the retrofit reasons, that we had to get the low flush ones. But I mean, it was gorgeous. It totally color coordinated the bathroom, and it was that mint green. It was a pretty green. It wasn't like a yucky green. So anyway.
Listen, there are reasons tastes change. There are reasons things modernize, and there are reasons we evolve. And you look at the past and you go, it was a great way that we once were, and now we're moving forward. And Michelle, you've made a house where your boys can be vibrant with their new dog, which is exciting to know that's on the list, and that you and David have places where you can sit down and have a conversation with the two of you and what you own, and have that good feeling. There's such a sense of accomplishments and prosperity when you buy a home and you have that great fortune to be able to do it. And just kudos to you for all the vision and care that you've shown to get to this place. It's an amazing story.
Thank you. I couldn't have done without you guys. It's been such a great journey, and it's not over. I mean, I still have the entire outside to do.
Yes.
The inside's beautiful. The outside's still hideous. It's really bad. So we have that journey as well to go through. So I can film that too. I have to do landscape design. I have to paint. We have so much to do.
Oh, I have the best landscape guy. I swear. I over a dozen friends have used him, and he has just been absolutely fabulous from a creativity as well as his ability to reduce, reuse, recycle. I mean, he reused our driveway and created these beautiful walkways with the concrete from this huge driveway we had that we broke up. And so he reused materials, he incorporated in ideas that I'm not that creative. I'm a very analytical person. So when I see it, I have an appreciation, but to come up with something completely out of imagination is not something I'm good with. And I enjoyed the process, and the fact that just like you love your contractor, which is very rare, I love my landscape designer, and again, that's a rare statement as well, because normally there's so much, so many things you have a discovery of people sometimes, even if they were referred, and you're like, gosh, how did this person ever, stay in this industry? But great thing is when you find these vendors that you would use over and over again, like my handyman. Phil has been in my life now for the last 3 years, and have just been my family, and he's helped every person that has needed help in tweaking things. And those resources, I know we work our butts off to vet those types of people, and it's always disappointing when they don't turn out the way you want them to. But when they're great, boy, you just want to hold on to them real good. And landscape design, he's been great. So, and he's helped a lot of folks around our community. So
Well, that's
I'll get
also,
that number.
yeah, I was going to say,
I
that
get
isn't
number.
that that's the classic, right? Is that as real estate agencies and brokerages, part of what you really have is access to all the different types of trades and or sources that people will need. For instance, I had a call from someone that bought a home 45 years ago, bought the very first Jan's house in North Westwood. It's a gorgeous house on Comstock. And the way Jan's, who was the original developer, they didn't really meet and bound the property lines. They didn't have fences back then when they built those houses. And so it's a little ambiguous as to where the property line is. And he's got a neighbor who's like, hey, I'm going to go add this. And he's like, we need
No,
to
you're
be
not.
checking the setbacks. But here's the thing. If you get a real survey, you're spending $3,500 easy. You can spend $5,000-$6,000 on a survey, easy peasy. It's scientific, right? It's meets and bounds and to the inch, as best that they can. And what's interesting was through our resources, I have somebody who will go out there and will site the property and will be able to give you like, look, it's going to be within 5 inches. So you know where you generally are. And they'll do that complimentary, just to help people understand their boundary lines, because they're doing us services because we trade, we work with them. Similarly with painters and with landscapers and with the builders like Michelle. That's an invaluable resource. I mean, how often do we hear it, Jake, people complaining about their builder, like, oh, I was so frustrated and I didn't, how do I manage it? And he just all of a sudden was gangbusters, and then they disappear, and managing them, they're always asking for more money.
Mine was consistent, like always just processing the whole way. Like it never, stalled for a little bit for inspections and a few things, asbestos.
But that's not on him. Yeah,
No,
those are all things beyond his control.
He's been good. He's been good. Like the electrician left today. He's coming back on Tuesday to do something. Now it's slowed down a little bit, the response. It's a little bit less urgent.
Of course.
But it's still there. He's still there. He's still coming in. We're still getting stuff done.
And the
it's
boys,
an ongoing journey.
The boys are happy in their new space. The boys are.
Oh, they love it. They love it. My little one's so cute. He's is his first time sleeping alone in a room.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's a big deal.
You know what's funny, Michelle, is that same thing when we finished and they both had their own rooms, and Jake, he was 11 when he finally like slept in his own room, and the boys always slept together.
11, yeah.
Right? Yeah, I know. And he has actually missing his older brother, and he wanted to be in the same room with him. And that was like a sad transition for him too. So I think that every younger sibling goes through it, whereas the older sibling's like, I got my independence, I got my own room.
My oldest Lucas loves it. Connor's like, it's a little scary at night, but he's getting there. He's a little nervous, but he leaves a light on. He'd kill me if I told him to say that.
The nostalgic sap in me remembers when I shared a room with my brother, that when you evaluate your life and you're kind of reflecting on things, and I think about it, honest to God, I get misty. Like, yeah, that was my little brother, and we shared a room, and we shared different stories and different. So there were tons of annoyances, and to live with me, geez, I'm just an ass. So I know it was difficult. But he'll tell. It's funny, when I went to college, when I to visit him in Colorado, and my brother went to Boulder. And he was there, and I met him, his fraternity brothers, and they all kind of looked at me like, so you're the one. And I'm like, what does that mean? Well, he can kick all of our butts because he knows how to wrestle, because he had an older brother that beat the hell out of him. And I go, yeah, I did do that. But anyway, those stories are great. And what a moment for your little guy, for Connor, to be able to be like, okay, I'll be brave. I'll be out there. I'll be fine.
They used to talk they used to talk for like 30, 40 minutes after tucking him in. And I know they miss that a little bit. That part I know they miss, because
they could have sleepover in each other's rooms, though.
I don't think they'll ever pop up that. I don't think they'll ever do that. But they go into each other's room to do devices now. They go into each other's room to play devices. But no, it was time. Lucas needs his own room. He was
I know, but I think there's something to be said for siblings to grow up sharing things, and even though, I think that back in the day, they just didn't have the space, and we all grew up in, one room together. And so I think that it's nice to have that sibling connectedness, and as a child that you always have somebody. So that's always nice, even if they're in separate rooms. But anyway, what an amazing journey, Michelle. It's ongoing, of course. It's always ongoing. I mean, I know that a couple years after we moved in, and we finally got our landscape done last year, and then we all, as a company, were able to enjoy our barbecue out here with all of you guys, and having the Heyler team over and so forth. And those are the things that I always dreamed about wanting to have, is a space to be able to house all of you guys. Because I love to cook, I love to eat, love to drink, and I love, you know, my family and friends, and so it is one of those dreams come true kind of a thing, you know. So
Yes, I'm the summer 2021, man. Vaccines. I'm having a rager. I'm having a rager. I told my husband, like, we're having a major party when this is over, and we're celebrating this house, because we can't do it right now. So
that's
awesome.
right.
2021.
Barbecue at your house for Heyler.
We're celebrating.
I love it. Well, we celebrate you, Michelle. I
Yes.
love the fact that from the moment you first said, you know, I want to transition from relo and corporate relo into more residential real estate, and I was like, yes. Well, I mean, consider us. And you're like, consider you? It'd be great. And I'm like, great. So
There was never a question. When I sat with you, and then I met Shauna, it's just like, that's it. I'm all in. I'm all in. And no looking back. I look forward to so many more years, and I love you guys. And thank you so much for helping me find my home. You guys did it. I appreciate it.
I love it. You know, we always know our peoples, you know, and you're definitely one of our peoples. So I love it, and always here for you, for sure. I know Sean's doing the Dr. Carey did this is his hug.
It's our virtual hug.
Zoom.
Virtual
This is his way of doing virtual hugs.
Right.
This is his patient.
Care.
So yeah, the care hug. And so ever since then, we've been doing that one. So Michelle, we'll let you go as Sean and I wrap up, but thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and sharing your journey on video via Facebook. And
we'll circulate that again. That's a great piece where people can see the transition of the home. It's wonderful to watch.
Yes, and like I said, I'll do something in January when it's a little bit better and less boxes and less stuff all over the place. We'll just do a quick update.
No pressure. It's always a journey, Michelle. Thank you so much. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
All right. Oh wow, it's so crazy how quickly the time goes, because there's so many interesting facets of her story, and just the home remodel journey anyway is quite that. It is a road that is often traveled, but not easy.
No, it is actually, and I remember talking to David and Michelle about this when they first took it on. And I tell everybody who does it, I go, you know, one of the greatest causes of marital strife is a remodel. Building a house and remodeling a home is, you really want to understand, are you guys in lockstep together? And if you're not, you might want to consider counseling. You know, like someone like me, I don't care about any of the details. I really don't. I don't care what color tile you have. I don't like change. True to my nature, I don't like change. I was like, but once it's done, I'm like, woohoo, it looks fantastic. My wife knows, like Jill, she's like, go away for the weekend. Like, oh yeah, go find your friends, go do something. And I don't really think about it. And then I come back and all of a sudden my room's painted again. And she's like, listen, you're too much of a pain in the ass to deal with when I want to make changes. So I just need you to be away. But it's
so funny. I think Larry wishes he was married to a Jill, because I just don't ever touch anything, and I'm more about, you know, being out in the field, and I got so many people that I'm helping, and it's like dealing with the house stuff, and he's always like, when is this going to get done, when is that going to get done? It's like, dude, man, like, you could do it. And he probably wishes he had a Jill.
By the way, that's exactly what Jill would say. So like, for instance, I noticed that I saw a new shower curtain in one of the rooms. I was like, oh, and I kind of walked into her and I said, so is it that you want me to install that? And she's like, no, I'll do it. And I go, yeah, but it's just sitting on the floor. And she goes, well, you can do it if you want to do it. Sure enough, I did it because the OCD in me kicked in. I'm like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to do it. I can't let it sit there. What, you know, it's funny how we react, but Jill, there is a part of her that would constantly change things, and she does, and she makes great changes. She really does have such a fabulous eye, and I'm the beneficiary of it for sure. I live in a it looks like I live in a
The
palace
home.
relative to my little home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it
It's
really is
gorgeous. Yeah.
her little taste and touches and things, but we collaborate on it. We do have some fun with it. And it actually motivates me to do certain things so that it doesn't burden her, like in
Yeah.
her mind. I know the only thing that we really have to wrestle for in the immediate future is probably dealing with my kitchen. And I am not looking forward to that. So if there's anybody who wants to just share a giant windfall with us and wants to help budget that kitchen, please feel free, because I know that eventually I have to do that. But I've got to get kids through colleges and etc. We're waiting on Juliet and some of her applications. She has an early decision to a major Ivy League school, so we'll see if that comes together. I hope for her sake it does. We'll see, but wherever she'll end up will be wonderful. And for those who would love to know, Jordan is back on the USC traveling team. It was interesting because he took the semester off. He took a gap semester with COVID in September. We were kind of like, well, it's a big tuition to pay to have everything learned online and to lose what a school like University of Southern California has, which is a huge social network. But now in this reality, the social network doesn't matter. The social network is mostly football. And so because he wasn't in school full time, he took an internship at a rocket engineer lab, and that's where he had been for 4 or 5 months. And then he got back into school and back on the team, and he's climbed all the way back in. So he's traveling against crosstown rivals UCLA this weekend. So we're excited, and we'll see if he makes the field. If he doesn't, it doesn't matter. He's suited up going to the Rose Bowl, which is awesome. And we'll for the few years my son is at USC, be rooting on for the Trojans, and then we'll convert back to normalcy. Right. Yeah, so it's interesting. I'll tell you, girl, the time does fly when I get to talk to you, and I do miss you a ton. You've been a busy bee putting together a couple of great leases out of kind of nowhere when lease market had really stalled for a while. And those,
Yeah.
most people don't understand, leases are different than sales. Sales are divorces, they're separations. And in one sense, they're technically a little easier because a lease is a marriage. It's a statement of understanding. We're going to coexist in this relationship for a period of time, and it has a lot of power and responsibility. And you took on a couple of them, and I'm super stoked to see the second one go, because that one had us a little bit more concerned. So
Yeah.
that's a testimony to good effort. And now that I'm up to speed, I can start to help absorb some of those different inquiries that we have for our Hill Street condominium, which seems to be a fantastic value for somebody to eventually discover and understand that the piece of property in Santa Monica is like a little lump of gold over time, and a great, even if you just rent it out, it's a solid one. And actually renting it out, I think it actually cash flows pretty quick, depending
Yeah.
on your down payment. Certainly the house on the property on Commodore Slope, we're prepared. We understand all the complexities with that. And that is a vintage. You want to talk about a vintage Spanish style or Moorish style duplex, one of those grand, huge spaces.
Grand
That's
Dame. I like to call it a
God,
Grand
Grand
Dame.
Grand Dame. And it for someone who understands, like, listen, it's a little, you got a tenant in there. It's going to come most likely with a tenant for the minute. But if you can get over that, and she's paying not far from fair market rents. It's not
No?
fantastic, but it's not far from it. But man, that latent potential in that thing over time, that is the move. And how wonderful would it be to buy that and have a tenant in place, and then be able to live in 1,900 square feet of updated, beautiful quality in a super neighborhood. So, it's exciting because there's a lot of good stuff like that in the market. This is the traditional time when things stall, because we're in the holiday mode.
Unless you're planning for January, unless you're already planning for January, February, which is a good time to come on market. And so
that's
I think
that's true.
The November and December historically for us have been working with those really prepared people that want to be ready when that first opportunity of the new year comes around, versus waiting until, the emergency scenario that starts to play out, and being always a step behind versus being way ahead of what the market has to bear. So lots of good things. Sorry you had your birthday in quarantine. You're a week into being 55. But
hold on. Besides me hitting the speed limit, which is a whole other thing, which happened, I turned around. My dad told me that. He told me, he goes, I don't know how many years ago, son, you're going to turn around once, you're going to be 30. Then you're going to turn around twice, you're going to be 60. And I'll be damned if he wasn't right. It's like, what? How did that happen? But I actually got several incredible gifts. And I have to say, to those people and the family members and friends that may be listening and watching, thank you for the extreme care. We ended up with tons of food at our doorstep every single day. Kent Canfield, you delivered some awesome holy cow. And my
Nice.
mother-in-law and Ozzy and Amir, you guys sent us some wonderful stuff for my birthday. But I have to say, the champion were my hand rolls that came from you, Jay Woo. That was badass. I was like, and Jill looked at it. She goes, "Oh, that's a great idea." And I'm like, "Yeah, Kazunori, yes, this is." You want to make somebody's day, you get them those, because that was the bomb. Thank
It's like
you.
salivating, right?
No, I'm salivating again. I'm like, it's 11, but I'm ready for those. Thank you.
Well, I know you through and through, man, and I know what makes you happy. And just to do something, change it up this year. Everything's changing, so might as well change it up a
It was
little
awesome.
bit. So.
Thank you for that, Jay.
All right, I'll check in with you later, and hopefully I get
All right,
to see
girl.
you next week.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye.